Hi, I'm Phil Dollin from Inspiration Marine. We're here at MDL's Hamble Point Marina on a fairly blustery Thursday in April, and we're looking at cockpit layouts, line handling, winch layouts, main sheet travellers, that kind of thing, and looking at the difference between what could be considered a cruiser racer layout and a cruiser layout. Hopefully by the end of it you'll have a better understanding of what to expect from cockpit layouts for each different type of boat and what would suit you better and your family. So we're starting on Dehler 38, which falls squarely in the cruiser racer category. Typically more winches than a cruiser, so this is laid out with 6 winches, specifically a couple of winches for the main sheet handling, a couple of winches for the jib handling, and then a couple more winches up on the coach roof for reefing, vang, up or pole down haul, that kind of thing. And the winches are spaced very deliberately a good distance apart, so if you had a crew on board, each of them could operate a winch without getting in the way of the other person. The other thing you'll find on a cruiser racer is more adjustability of things. So instead of having a main sheet up in front of the spray hood on the coach roof, which is out of the way of the cockpit, which is very nice from a cruising point of view, on a cruiser racer you would generally find the main sheet down to a track that travels across the aft end of the cockpit, attached to the end of the boom, to allow a main sheet trimmer to have more control over adjusting the main, dropping it down the track, and just trim, sail shape, main handling, that kind of thing. So a cruiser racer, typically more winches, often 6, adjustable tracks for the genoa, adjustable main sheet traveller in the cockpit, and a layout which would allow a crew to get at the winches, to operate the winches without impeding anybody else that's on the boat at the same time. So we've moved over to a 45-foot Hanse, which sits squarely in the family, couples cruising, cruiser kind of layout. So instead of having winches spread around the cockpit, everything for the main and jib, which tend to get called white sails, are led back to within reach of the helm. So this winch here within reach of the starboard helm, I've got main sheet, jib sheet, furling, reefing, unfurling, halyards, literally everything to control the main and the jib within reach of the helm. So other things that you tend to find on a cruiser layout as opposed to a cruiser racer layout is the main sheet forward of the spray hood. You tend to give up on having a traveller because it's not so easy to operate that far forward, but what it does mean is the cockpit remains really clean. You haven't got a traveller with the main sheet passing up and down, so it's a cleaner, safer cockpit, easier to have guests on, easier to move around, and a great deal easier for a short-handed or even single-handed crew to manage. The next thing that you'll tend to find with a cruiser as opposed to a cruiser racer is that instead of having an overlapping jib or an overlapping genoa, it's very common now to have a self-tacking jib. It's important that the design of the rig is inherently around having a self-tacker. This means that the rig will be nice and balanced. The benefits meaning that when you come to tack, it will simply tack for you. So you turn the wheel, you have an opportunity to adjust the trim and things at that point, but it does make tacking and jibing very straightforward. A bit like moving to an automatic car. Once you've had an automatic car, it's very hard to move back from it. The next thing you'll notice is that all of the lines travel through these jammers here, this bank of jammers, and they're labelled, which makes operating it very easy. So you can see that you've got the out haul, you've got the third reef, the first reef, main halyard, etc. And it means that knowing what you're about to adjust, even if you're unfamiliar with the boat, is quite straightforward. Some people will go a step further and they'll colour code the lines, so as well as the jammer labels, they also have a kind of known knowledge of the green line does this, the red line does that, which is another way of stepping that forwards. There is a second set of winches on this. They're out of reach of the helm, so it's very much a kind of crew addition. So if you were to have a downwind sail like an asymmetric or a cruising chute, they can be handled nice and easily. White sails back here for the helm, and forward you have Jenica sheets or Jenica winches that a crew addition can operate for you. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight into the differences between what to expect in terms of cockpit layout from a cruiser set up for short-handed family cruising, and a cruiser racer, which is more set up for a crew to operate, more to tweak, more to tune, more to adjust, and the differences between the two, and hopefully which layout is going to suit your kind of sailing better. Thank you for watching. I'm Phil from Inspiration Marine, and I hope you enjoyed it, and happy sailing.